Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today I wanted to do something that I've kind of been waiting to do for a pretty long time now. On my live stream, I like to talk about how I have these documents hidden away where I have ideas for Final Fantasy XIV and like single-player RPGs and stuff like that. And they're nothing more than ideas. I haven't developed games since college, and even then, it was like I could do some programming, some design. I was always more of a level design kind of guy when I was in college, but I've had these ideas and I always talk about them, and I figured, why not bring them out? The last time I really brought one of these ideas out, I think, was back when I made a video about, like, what if Animo was a fight in Final Fantasy XIV. It's been so long. Now, I'm going to say this right now, I don't think these ideas in any way should be or are fully thought out and functional in Final Fantasy XIV's rules and regulations and how the game functions. I don't think my ideas are any more valuable than anyone else's. I just wanted to share it with you guys, and I do videos on YouTube, so I'm doing a video on this. The job that I've always wanted in Final Fantasy XIV was Puppetmaster, and unfortunately Yoshi P was actually asked about it recently, and he said not even thinking about it. So my hopes were pretty dashed that he was ever going to do it, but I always had my ideas for Puppetmaster. This was one of the ideas I came up with, and this was a melee pet tank iteration of the job. For those who don't know the job, it was a hand-to-hand based pet job in Final Fantasy XI, where they gave their automatons commands, and their automaton would execute the commands based on maneuvers, which were things that could increase its attack power or its haste. They had a lot of different attachments that you could equip in order to make these maneuvers do different things. Now, I don't think a full-blown attachment system would work very well in Final Fantasy XIV. So I actually omitted that in my idea, the idea of collecting attachments and putting them in, because we know how Yoshi P and crew feels about needing specific items, and if anything, these would be items that would be similar to a skill tree almost, where you would just take the same thing. And because I've narrowed the job down to just a tanking pet melee job, I had to kind of just think, what do I need the most? What does this job need to achieve, and do I absolutely need attachments in order to do that? So I've removed the attachment system, and the job is based on TP. It performs all of its actions based on TP, except for maneuvers, which are simply on a short cooldown of about 5 seconds. So passively, the Mammoth, since it is a tank job, and it is the Mammoth that is going to be tanking, the Automaton Mammoth, whatever you prefer to call it, it takes incredibly reduced damage from AoEs. That way the Master doesn't need to micro it out of every single conal AoE that it might get hit by. And now it is immune to crowd control, but it gains any CC that the Master gets. So like if the Master is stunned, the pet is stunned. If the Master is paralyzed, then the pet is paralyzed. That way, it's all up to the individual skill of the player to ensure that the Mammoth isn't debilitated in any way, shape, or form. That includes that if something is removed, like if you Asuna a poison off of the Master, that it also means that the Automaton would have it removed also. And if they both have a poison, it also puts them at a more detrimental place, because they will take twice the amount of stacks from the poison. But certain things would work different ways, obviously, to avoid this. Now, in terms of things like tank mechanics and whatnot, those kind of effects would be transferred to the Master. Those are debilitating effects that the Master would still absolutely have to deal with. That being said, it's kind of a weird place to say it's immune to crowd control, but it's not immune to debilitating effects. So that has to be kept in mind for the sake of balance, that it can't be immune to things like tank busters and whatnot. So, next up we have the passive. They have a level 1 passive, Marionette. Whenever Puppetmaster performs certain actions, the Mammoth will automatically match these actions with their own attacks. If the Mammoth is out of range, combos will still continue. The Mammoth's stats also mirror the stats, buffs, and debuffs of the Puppetmaster. So that's like the thing we spoke about before. What this allows you to do is, when you're micromanaging your pet, you're not micromanaging the abilities it uses, you're just micromanaging its movement. Its attacks that it performs will be performed simultaneously with your attacks, which is why I've given them a few extra abilities here while they are leveling up. At level 1, they automatically obtain Activate, as opposed to waiting for a later level to get the puppet itself. And this summons the Mammoth with a few basic skills that they'll learn before level 30. And then these skills will also change later, and they'll gain more than just these 3 basic skills you see here. They also don't have an Obey or Sick mode because of the way that they interact with the Master, so it gives them 2 extra slots for a total of 6 on the pet hotbar. That's just the way I've decided, to go about doing this. So Other than that, they have the standard things: deactivate, move, retrieve, stay, guard, steady. Those are the first 6 actions. It's the other 6 actions that we're going to be talking about. They have a basic combo: slapstick into knockout into chain slapstick. Slapstick is just deals damage to a target enemy. Knockout is damage to a target enemy, generates additional enmity, and combos with slapstick. And at level 26, they get Chain Slapstick, which is basically just a fancy multi-hit. Combo action is knockout, and it generates additional enmity. It is a tank, so we want to make sure that we're covering all the bases with that basic enmity-generating combo that they have from 1 to 26. So, at level 1, the Master also gets Punch. Just a basic ability, performs a basic punch. Whenever you punch, it'll automatically cause Slapstick to happen as well. Because of that, the potencies of both the Pet and the Master are lower than you would see normally, but it's because it's expected that they'll both land the hit simultaneously. If the Mammoth is ever out of range, the Mammoth can't use the skill, but the Master can still do it. Just keep in mind that that will still keep the combo rolling. So let's say your Mammoth was out of range for Slapstick, but you used Punch. It would still ready Knockout because the Master himself is readied for the next combo that actually causes Knockout to happen. At level 2, they get Wind Maneuver. This is an off-global cooldown ability that's on a short cooldown, and it increases your Mammoth's attack speed. Not by a lot at this level, by a very low amount. And up to 3 maneuvers may be present at once, and it shares a cooldown with other maneuvers. So think of it like ninjutsu, how when you use ninjutsu, they all go on cooldown for 20 seconds. It's the same whenever you use a maneuver, but they're on a significantly shorter cooldown than that. Like, I was thinking maybe like 5 seconds or something like that. And this one increases the attack speed right away at level 2. Level 4, they get Backhand Blow, performs a backward strike. It's combo action with Punch, and that causes Knockout to happen with your Mammoth. At level 6, they get Fire Maneuver, which increases the Mammoth's attack power. The rest of the rules are the same as Wind Maneuver. Spin Stick is level 8, causes your Mammoth to spin rapidly, damaging all nearby enemies, generates increased enmity. So this is a command that you perform that is on the global cooldown, but it basically acts as an AoE from your Mammoth. The equivalent of an AoE Slapstick, pretty much. But it is its own attack, just keep that in mind. You're commanding your pet to do an AoE spin, pretty much. And that costs TP as well. Level 10 is Health Link. Now, this is the way... Now, the big problem I have with the way I had to design Puppetmaster for 14 was that I had to come up with a way to make the tanking pet job possible. Because pets don't appear in the party bar, I just followed that sort of mentality that wouldn't change. And I created Health Link, which basically means when the puppet takes damage, the Master is the one who instead takes the damage. So with Health Link in mind, that's why I needed to mimic the stats of the Master. And then it's damage and healing. So if the Master is healed, the puppet is healed as well. That's assuming that the puppet... Now that's, of course, to counteract things like having the double stacked of the poisons. You know, like it needs to be able to counter the fact that 2 debuffs are indeed on them. And keep in mind that with Health Link, it doesn't make the puppet immune to all damage, because if the puppet is already missing health, like perhaps you want to keep the puppet taking its own damage, and then you want a Health Link as the Puppet Master in order to stop your puppet from taking damage while you're the one taking damage. That'll gradually heal you up, and because the puppet's not taking any damage while you're being attacked and healed, it means that once the puppet's back at full health, you turn Health Link off, and then the puppet's back to being safe. It makes it so you have to balance between letting your puppet take damage and you being the one responsible for taking damage for it. Level 12 is Earth Maneuver. This is a defensive cooldown. Increases your Mammoth's resistance to physical damage up to 3 maneuvers. Same with the rest of the rules. And that's basically going to be your equivalent of pretty much all your defensive cooldowns. Now, we're going to get into how that works a little bit later. But with the Earth Maneuver, that is like, you're not going to see many more defensive cooldowns after that. You're going to see some utility. You're going to see more damaging skills. But that is a primary defensive cooldown and will be for the entirety. And I've only done job abilities up to level 60. Level 15, this is a equivalent of a quest ability, Magic Mortar. It's its ranged attack. You know, you have Shield Lob. Every tank at level 15 gets a ranged attack. So that is what I made it. Magic Mortar does eat the GCD, commands your Mammoth to perform a ranged magical attack that generates increased enmity. Level 18 is Upward Strike. This is directly from the Master itself, and this is deals damage to your target and also stun. So this is an off-global cooldown stun from the Master itself. Level 22 is Alarm, and this commands your Mammoth to flare an alarm, causing your target to attack it. Acts as Provoke, basically, for your Mammoth, so your Mammoth can provoke to it. Level 26 is Stringing Pummel, performs a string of punches, combo action is Backhand Blow. That's what works with Chain Slapstick, and basically does exactly the same thing. That's what activates it. It combos from Knockout. It's at level 30 where the job gets a little bit more interesting. At level 30, you get the Valor Edge frame. and you have defensive and offensive. So think of it like Deliverance Defiance. You have Valor Edge Defensive, which is what you passively get at 30 before doing a job quest. And then you have Valor Edge Offensive. Now, I've actually labeled out all of the Puppet's abilities, all 6 of them, from 1 to 50. These are the things that fill all 6 of its action bars that it has open from us getting rid of Obey and Sick earlier. So during the defensive Valor Edge, equips your Mammoth with the Valor Edge model frame and body, frame and head, that's a misspelling on my end, with a focus on, not in defense, with a focus on defense. Reduces damage dealt, reduces damage taken. Increases enmity game. All enmity generated by the master will be transferred to the puppet. If anything, actually, this is redundant, because that is increased enmity generated just by default. Enhances the effect of defensive maneuvers and changes Mammoth skills and their effects. So it basically acts as a full-blown redirect everything to defense mode. And is the equivalent of Shield Oath, Defiance, reducing damage taken, all that good stuff. But of course, you have things that are the equivalent of Maim or Fight or Flight in that of your fire maneuvers and your wind maneuvers if you want to deal more damage, because you don't need more defenses through things like Earth and the other maneuvers we'll talk about later. So at level 1, it changes their action to Chimera Ripper, which is the same as Slapstick, but it has an increased potency. Level 4 turns into String Clipper. Now, when you're in the defensive Valor Edge frame, it not only does the generates increased enmity and does more damage, but it also generates an additional Earth maneuver. So this is an on-global cooldown that generates an Earth maneuver for you, so you don't have to do it as the master. At level 26, Cannibal Blade deals damage to target enemy. Combo action is Knockout. Now this actually, I made it a little bit like Rage of Halone, but I wanted to make it a little different also. This actually steals strength from the target as opposed to just reducing it. So it reduces it and it increases the strength of the puppet itself. So it also acts sort of as an increased DPS, an increased enmity. This is to encourage you to use this combo even when you are not actually dealing with the target, because it's increased damage for you. It's part of maintaining your damage output as a Puppet Master, and it's also part of your default defensive, your default enmity generating combo. So you have multiple reasons to use it. At level 34, you get an alternate path to the Slapstick combo, and that's in Bone Crusher. Deals damage and inflicts a damage over time to target enemy and all enemies around them. So this is an AoE skill for your Puppet Master, an AoE dot that can be dealt with on the combo. Reduces the enemy's resistance to blood damage, the target enemy's resistance. So like the initial enemy that you're targeting, the one that is actually the center of this AoE dot, they're the ones who are going to get their resistance reduced to blunt damage. And that is the type of damage that the entire job deals, because it is hand-to-hand and it is slapping you with a friggin' puppet arm. This comes off of the... And this is Combo Action Punch. It should actually say Combo Action Slapstick. You guys get to see me edit it. At level 42, you get Oil Spill, places a dot on the target. And remember, all of these skills, you're going to see them reflected in the Puppet Master skills that I gave to the Master at those levels too. At level 50, you get Sting Shredder. This combo's off of Bone Crusher. Deals high damage to a target enemy and all enemies around them. Very similar to Bone Crusher. It's an AoE rotation, essentially. However, if the enemy is isolated, it deals bonus damage. So if you're only hitting one target, it deals extra damage. So it covers two sides of the spectrum, pretty much. It's good for AoE and it's good for single target. It is your go-to offensive skill as the Puppet Master if you don't need to steal the strength, if you don't need the enmity, and you want to deal damage. So it's and obviously inflicting the dot is an important part of your combo too, so you'll probably be doing it pretty often. Now you can also get the Valor Edge Offensive. This one changes a little bit. All of the skills, this increases the damage of the frame outright and increases the effect of offensive maneuvers such as Wind Maneuver and Fire Maneuver. So again, same thing. They're all the same names, but the first 3 have different effects. So instead of generating an extra Earth maneuver, Offensive generates an extra Fire maneuver, so it's increasing the damage output. And then for Cannibal Blade, it still steals strength and makes it its own, but it also deals extra damage. It just has a flat-out higher potency on top of the bonus damage from being in the offensive Valor Edge frame. And then the rest of them are the same: blunt resistance, the damage over time, the double dots, as well as the high damage. It's just going to deal even more because you're in the offensive frame. And then we have the rest of the Puppetmaster skills. Now, we covered all those. Now, the rest are all Puppetmaster skills. At level 34, you get Marionette Mash, which deals damage to your target and enhances the effect of the next maneuver that you grant to your Mammoth. So this is actually, again, another important part. Not only does it act as the dot, it acts as enhancing the next maneuver. So if you want more defense from Earth Maneuver, you have that right here. If you want more attack speed from Wind Maneuver, you have that right here. So it's important to time your Marionette Mash in your combos with what you know is coming. Do I need to be doing more DPS coming up? Do I need to be more defensive coming up? That's an important part of using this part of the combo, Marionette Mash. Role Reversal swaps the current health of the Mammoth and Master. This is, again, something that you can do. If you don't necessarily want a health link, you have Role Reversal. I considered removing this because of the way that health link actually works, and I considered instead making this just a flat-out repair ability at level 35, so you can repair your Mammoth while you're the Master. Because when you're soloing out in the world, you don't always have access to healing, for example. So I figured maybe a self-repair would probably have been the better choice, and I may change that later. It seems kind of redundant to have this and health link. So level 38 is Overdrive, doubles the effect of current maneuvers on your Mammoth. So this just basically acts as a huge either offensive or defensive cooldown, depending on how you want to use it. Ice Maneuver increases your Mammoth's resistance to magical damage. So we saw Earth Maneuver was strictly physical damage. Ice Maneuver acts as a magical damage buff. So this is another one of those defensive maneuvers that would be buffed by the defensive side of Valor Edge. Quick Jab deals damage to the target. That's the one that actually goes with Oil Spill. Right here, you can see that goes with Oil Spill. That's the one that activates it. Level 45 is Cooldown. It's actually called Cooldown. It's basically your puppet enters an inactive state to release all of the steam in its body, and while it's doing that, it enters an inactive state and creates a protective barrier around itself. So if anyone is standing in the barrier, they take reduced damage. But also, because the Mammoth is now completely inactive, and that's a huge hit to your DPS as a tank, while enemies are in that barrier, they will also take damage over time and have their movement speed slowed. So that is the other effect that it actually accomplishes as well. I also considered making it a slowing effect, similar to that of Shadow Flare. I decided to go with movement speed slow for now, and I may change that in my notes later. Not like it matters, this isn't actually going into the game. And it also generates increased enmity. So it acts as again, a lot of the Puppet Master's abilities act as dual offensive defensive because it's so chaotic to try and maintain both in an actual fight. Level 46 is Stand Ready. Your Mammoth enters a defensive stance, causing it to block the next attack it's struck by and counterattack. The counterattack itself will also stun. So basically, as part of the Valor Edge frame, you do get a little shield, and the other one can do it as well. So this actually allows it to ready that tiny shield and then counterattack and block and also stun it. It's basically like counterattacking with a shield bash almost. And yes, the puppet can block once it gets the Valor Edge defensive. I probably should have put that in the notes. It can't block before that though. Level 50 is actually not Victory Smite. I wanted to call it something else. I used Victory Smite as a filler. I wanted to call it something like, I can't remember right now. I guess I'll leave it as Victory Smite for now. I had another idea for what I wanted to call it. Something regarding puppets. Something... Oh, Clockwork Punch is what I wanted to call it. But I'll change it to Clockwork Punch, but I actually need to rework that. Because I didn't want it to just deal damage, but that's the ability that activates Sting Shredder. I wanted Clockwork Punch to have some sort of additional effect, but with how strong Sting Shredder and Bone Crusher already are, I decided to lay off of that for now. Now, on top of that, you get level 50. At level 50, you also get Heady Artifice. This is part of this would be the job quest equivalent, and this enables your Mammoth to perform a powerful action based on the maneuvers that are currently active on him. So if no maneuver is dominating, or you have no maneuvers, it's just Overdrive. It basically just performs the Overdrive action, which you learned back here at level 38. If you have 2 fire maneuvers, it gives your Mammoth Berserk, which will enact the exact same effect. If you have 2+ wind maneuvers, it gets the haste ability. It allows it to move through its combos a lot faster. The 2+ earth maneuvers gives it Sentinel for a huge defensive cooldown. 2+ ice maneuvers gives it Mana Ward, so it can absorb a portion of the next magic damage that it takes. 2+ light maneuvers, which we'll get to in a second here, gives it Clemency, which it'll cast on the Master to be effective. And 2+ dark maneuvers allows it to cast Goad also on the Master. So this is a long cooldown. You have to decide how you want to use it. It's not so long to the point where you can't use it too frequently, but you have to decide what you're going to do when you have X amount. You need to make sure you're getting the right maneuvers up for the right point in time. Do I need to goad myself? Am I going to need a big heal here? Am I going to need to absorb a magical hit? Am I going to need to absorb a physical hit? It's more specifically, this Sentinel only works on physical damage only, so it's a huge physical defensive cooldown, to be more specific. Now, level 52, they get Store Maneuver, which allows your I shouldn't say automaton, I should say consistent state mammoth. It's just I'm so used to calling it an automaton. Allows your mammoth to store maneuvers that are currently active and benefit from their effects for a short time. This consumes all maneuvers. So basically what it does is, let's say you have 3 wind maneuvers up, and that gives you 15% more attack speed, right? And you use Store Maneuver, you'll benefit from that 15% bonus attack speed for like 15 seconds, and then it'll wear off. But while those 15 seconds are going on, the master is now stacking new maneuvers. So basically you could have 3 wind maneuvers, Store Maneuver, and then go 3 fire maneuvers, and then by the time that you get the 3rd fire maneuver up, you'll only have 5 seconds left to enjoy them both. But it allows you to basically super buff, either super offense or super defense buff your mammoth. So 6 earth maneuvers is technically possible, or 3 earth, 3 ice, something along those lines. So it's a pretty solid thing that you have to maintain. And all these cooldowns, while they're somewhat long, they're not too long, so you can utilize them frequently. Level 54, you learn Dark Maneuver, which gradually restores your mammoth's TP up to a certain amount may be present. This is a very, very low efficiency TP regeneration, like 5 TP a tick. The goad is 30 from the Haiti Artifice, but this one's like 5 TP a tick, so it's very, very low maintaining, and that's because there's so much TP usage for this job. Level 56 is Enhanced Animator. Your Animator is your offhand weapon that you have that actually allows you to control the mammoth. And your next maneuver will apply itself twice. This means if I go to perform a fire maneuver, I can allow it to apply 2 stacks of fire maneuver. And then level 58, you learn Light Maneuver, which places a regen effect on the mammoth. This is another defensive cooldown. And now technically Dark Maneuver I consider an offensive, and Light Maneuver I consider defensive for the sake of offensive and defensive frame. And you can place a regen on the mammoth up to 3 maneuvers, same deal, regen. That's why the double Light Maneuver basically acts as a clemency. I considered making it act as like a super powerful regen, but clemency was a stronger ability, and considering it is a tank, I like to compare it to that. And then level 60, you have Power of the Puppet, causes the mammoth to extend the effects of its current maneuvers to nearby party members. That does not include stored maneuvers. That is only the 3 active maneuvers that the master has. So this allows you to spread out an AoE physical defense buff, AoE magic defense in the form of the ice maneuvers, AoE regen, AoE TP, which is weaker. Keep in mind, it is benefiting from the weak versions, not from the buffed versions from Haiti Artifice. So again, you're basically just extending the effect for a short period of time to all of the nearby party members. So it acts as another form of utility, being able to increase attack speed and whatnot. But again, on a very long cooldown, so you have to use it very intelligently. And those are all the abilities I came up with up to level 60. There's a few flaws in the system. Just the fact that it is a pet tank as a whole is a bit of a flaw. And then coming up with traits was really weird. I basically had to give it enhanced vitality because it's a tank. I gave it enhanced maneuvers 1, 2, and 3, which increases the effect. So that way at the early points, like you don't have a 15% haste at level 2 because you have wind maneuver. You have like a 6% haste. By level 40, you have the 15% haste from having 3 wind maneuvers. And I'm using that as an example because that's a big one. You also have Enhanced Upward Strike, which increases the stun duration. You have Enhanced Cannibal Blade, which increases the health absorbed by Cannibal Blade. Overload, which causes your automaton to pulse AoE damage for 6 seconds every 3rd maneuver they're commanded to do. This causes them to overload and just emit a quick, basically shocks that come out of their body. And this gives you some decent AoE damage over time. And it's just another portion of the damage. That means that it is a DPS loss to stop issuing maneuvers. So it's another part of the job's overall theme. And then extended maneuvers increases the duration of maneuvers. I actually don't like that one, and I want to get rid of it. I just haven't thought of what else to get it there for. And then enhanced Bone Crusher increases the duration of Bone Crusher's damage over time. That just is, increases it so you don't have to do that combo as often. So that was Puppetmaster. I mean, it's just bullshit. It's just for fun. A lot of this shit wouldn't even work in Final Fantasy XIV. But the thing is, I know you guys all have ideas too. Everyone has an idea of the way that jobs should function. I've noticed that from my Blue Mage video, from my Red Mage video, where I just talk about, what would I imagine the job as? Everyone has their own ideas. We're just thousands of people in a community that just have this mental image of how we would do things or how we would have done things, how we would change the jobs the way they are now. Everyone has these ideas. and I would love to give you guys a place with which to share them. So under the stream, be sure to post your ideas for maybe this job, maybe another job, and maybe I'll do more of these videos in the future if it's well received. Again, disclaimer, this is in no way a job that is actually coming to Final Fantasy XIV. Yoshi P himself has said it's not even on their radar, this specific job. It's just an idea I had, nothing more, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.